George, guess what?
What, Joe?
I got a dog.
Really?
Yes, he's a cute little thing. I love him. He's my little baby. He's my little child.
That's so sweet. What's his name?
Queenie.
Your boy dog is named Queenie?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Would you like to see him?
No, absolutely yes.
Queenie? Oh, where's my baby Queenie?
Oh, I'm sure he'll turn up.
I got to find him. Queenie? Oh, where's my baby at Queenie?
Joe,
where's my baby Queenie?
we have a show to do.
Queenie, where are you? Where's my baby? Where's my child? Where are you? George, there's something stuck in my futon. I'm going to pull it out. My baby! Ah! Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast is all movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romaka. And today we're discussing Crooklyn from 1994 and some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. We're excited to announce that we've joined the Creator Accountability Network. CAN is a nonprofit dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We joined because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. If you feel our behavior or content has harmed someone, please report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline at 617-249-4255. They'll help us make it right and avoid repeating that mistake in the future. CAN also needs volunteers from our communities to help with their work, so if you have skills you think would be helpful, or time and a desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. Most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. Help us build safer communities together. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and on our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us. Even the ones who maybe used to sniff glue but don't anymore, and leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod.
Just like our newest patron at the $1 level or popcorn level, Fred R. Gruthus. Thank you, Fred, for your support.
Yep, thanks, Fred. We don't get new patrons very often, and that brought a smile to my face when I went to go put the script together.
We are slowly but surely building our audience.
Yes.
Before we get into the rest of the program, though, we should probably discuss our cold open for those who haven't seen the movie and maybe are confused about what we were doing there, and we're not going to discuss it later, so now would be a good time.
I mean, we could always discuss it later.
But we're not.
But we're not going to. We're going to hear. So the protagonist's child gets sent to spend the summer with their aunt, and towards the end of that summer, the aunt's dog goes missing and turns up dead, having suffocated in the armpit of a hide-a-bed sofa.
Yeah, it's not clear how the dog gets in there. I should probably point this out. There are actually 2 scenes of animal cruelty, I guess. And so you should probably be forewarned. There's one scene very early in the film where some of the kids get a hold of a cat and start swinging the poor animal around by its tail.
To use it as a weapon. To let it go so it'll attack whoever it lands on.
Right. And of course, this poor dog. So if you're hypersensitive about that sort of thing, this may not be the movie for you.
Although I am 900% sure that real animals were not used for those scenes, just like they were not for our cold open.
You're right, exactly. Of course, these were not real animals. You can tell the cat is really a puppet, but yeah, it's just rather shocking. The kid's running over. Oh, here, kitty, and the next thing you know, he's like, ooh, oh.
Yep.
Anyway, George, let's get into history. Let's go back to 1994.
Okay.
And this is the way it was.
My employer shows up in this film. So let's see what was going on with Con Edison, who I'm obliged to say does not endorse or condone anything about this podcast, in 1994.
Or any year.
Or any year. Joe, give us our first headline from the Tarrytown Daily News of Tarrytown, New York.
NRC will test Indian Point 1 to see if water is being lost.
The NRC in that is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. To be perfectly clear, at the time, Con Edison owned Units 1 and 2 of the 3 nuclear reactor plants at Indian Point. The third was owned by the New York Power Authority. Con Edison sold the plants to Entergy in 2001, and at the time, Reactor 1 had been shut down since 1974. The water in that headline is from one of a handful of storage pools used to cool spent fuel rods until they could be moved to dry storage, and was possibly on the order of 60 gallons per day of loss there. It was a complicated question involving evaporation and leaking between interconnected pools.
And these aren't pools you can swim in, right?
No. I mean, you could. Once.
But not again.
I couldn't find any follow-up stories about it, so I'm assuming that it turned out to be fine. Because when things turn out not fine in nuclear power, we tend to hear about it.
Indeed. You know, I forgot that Con Ed was your employer. I didn't even think, like, oh yeah, George, how do you feel about this thing? Just completely slipped my mind.
And it's not the first movie that we've seen where Con Ed shows up. It is the first one that I'll remember.
Yeah, I don't hold up.
Because we keep thinking that we saw Ghostbusters, but we haven't for the show.
Right.
But I know that there's been at least one other movie we've seen where Con Ed and Con Ed shows up in New York movies fairly often because, duh.
I think it's I think Con Ed because it shows up at
Inside Man, definitely. Yeah. So, all right, now that I've had my fun.
That was fun for you?
Well, I get to talk about work. Let's see what else we can connect to this movie. One of our characters is a jazz musician, so Joe, give us our second headline, this time from Newsday of New York, New York.
Jazz Funk Redux.
So I'm going to read some for this one. For all the lip service being paid to jazz in the hip-hop world, rappers who talk about sampling jazz records usually mean jazz funk. For that matter, acid jazz, one of the recent dance floor trends from Britain, is little more than mid-70s American jazz funk with an English accent. As pervasive and influenced as the blending of jazz and funk is today in the work of artists from Gang Starr to Michelle I'm not going to try and butcher Sade's name. Sorry about that, Sade. It's rarely acknowledged as such. Perhaps jazz funk's breezy vocabulary has become so ingrained in the pop vernacular that no one even recognizes it anymore. It goes on to give a history of jazz funk, which, unlike the bebop that we learned about in Bird, ended up going nowhere really until some Brits got a hold of it and spiced it up enough for hip-hop artists to sample. I'd say more, but the author dropped so many musician and group names into it that I think they were compensating for something. Not sure what, but something.
This is, I think, our second film which involves a jazz musician hating on rock and roll. Because this guy, or just any sort of modern music, this guy despises.
And the guy who basically invented jazz funk and coined the term jazz funk would then go on to teach, be a music professor and refuse to acknowledge that it existed.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. And I really don't want to talk about cancer, because that's a thing in this movie. And we just talked about childcare in Mrs. Doubtfire. So we'll go with drugs for this one. Joe,
excellent.
Give us our last headline also from Newsday.
Young smokers are more drug-prone.
The drug in this movie is sniffing glue. But that wasn't happening as much in 1994, I guess, because I couldn't find shit. What was happening was smoking. Hell, that's still happening. But efforts to curb it back then would eventually actually pay off, and a good thing, too. In this story, a former Health, Education, and Welfare Secretary was briefing Congress on a study with a goal of convincing them to raise taxes on cigarettes from 24 cents to $2 a pack. The goal there was to tax them out of a middle schooler's lunch money budget. That would be a good thing. Reading, according to the study, based on figures from the National Institute of Drug Abuse's National Household Survey on Drug Abuse, That's a fucking sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Smokers between the ages of 12 and 17 are 23 times more likely to use marijuana and 12 times more likely to use heroin than those who never smoked. They are 51 times more likely to use cocaine and 57 times more likely to use crack.
Wow, those are some huge leaps from one to the other.
Yeah. I know that the thing that got me to quit smoking was the cost, and I can't say I'm complaining about it now, what with my ability to breathe and all.
And you didn't go on to these other drugs?
No, I did not. I mean, I did smoke weed for a little while there, but it doesn't play well with my anxiety.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they all went for, and it's not, I want to say it could be an oral fixation, but then booze isn't here. So the kids aren't going from cigarettes to booze, which makes the most sense, because, I mean, I've certainly...
Well, everything in this list is an illegal substance. Or it was an illegal substance at the time. Booze was never illegal, just illegal for 12 to 17-year-olds.
Well, it was illegal in the 20s, but yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Whenever Prohibition was. But, yeah, okay, right, then that makes sense. But it's just very interesting, yeah, if you smoked, you went to marijuana, such a leap to crack cocaine, wow.
I mean, assholes make such a fucking... Marijuana's a gateway drug. But they will stand hard for the fucking nicotine lobby.
It's true. If by this logic, cigarettes are the gateway drug.
Yeah, by a lot.
By a lot.
All right, Joe, let's talk about Crooklyn.
Let's do that. Okay, this movie was directed by everyone's favorite Lee, Spike Lee. And for the podcast, we've seen his work in Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, Inside Man, Bamboozled, and Get on the Bus. And I've seen his work in Da 5 Bloods, Black Klansman, Chirac, Jungle Fever, 25th Hour, Clockers, He Got Game, The Original Kings of Comedy, Four Little Girls, that's his only documentary, Summer of Sam, School Days, Mo Better Blues, Joe's Bed-Stuy Barbershop, We Cut Heads, and She's Gotta Have It. Interesting thing about Joe's Bed-Stuy Barbershop, that is the first film of his I've seen, and I did not realize that was Spike Lee. At the time or he wasn't Spike Lee at the time, just some filmmakers of stuff I saw on Channel 13. This is written by Joey Lee and Sadiq Lee, along with Spike. For the podcast, as actors, we've seen Joey Lee and Sadiq Lee in Coffee and Cigarettes. Joey Lee we've seen on Get on the Bus and Do the Right Thing. For myself, I've seen Joey Lee in Summer of Sam, Mo Better Blues, School Days, She's Gotta Have It, and Sadiq Lee I've seen in Mystery Train and School Days. Let's move on to the blurbs. IMDb says Spike Lee's vibrant, semi-autobiographical portrait of a school teacher, her stubborn jazz musician husband, and their 5 kids living in Brooklyn in 1973. YouTube, gotta be special. So here's YouTube. Make yourself home with the Carmichael family as they experience one very special summer in their Brooklyn neighborhood that they've affectionately nicknamed Crooklyn. Renowned director Spike Lee fashions a bold, flavorful picture of family life that People magazine calls his most affectionate work. Academy Award nominee Alfre Woodard stars as Carolyn, a loving but fiercely independent mother who, along with her musician husband, Delroy Lindo, struggles to raise her family in difficult but often wonderful circumstances. Wonderful? Okay. Complemented by an energizing vintage R&B soundtrack, this tender, colorful film is a fitting tribute to an American family.
Sure.
Sure, why not? And
there's a lot of words.
Some of the characters we will discuss. Carolyn, as the blurb said, is played by Alfre Woodard. For the podcast, we've seen her in 12 Years a Slave and Love and Basketball. Both George and I have seen her in Captain America Civil War. And I've seen her in Star Trek First Contact, Clemency, The Piano Lesson, and Passion Fish.
And I've seen her in Scrooged.
Woody is played by Delroy Lindo. And for the podcast, we heard him in Up.
Mm-hmm.
And we both seen him in Broken Arrow. And I've seen him in Sinners, Da 5 Bloods, Get Shorty, The Harder They Fall, and The Cider House Rules.
And I've seen him in The Devil's Advocate and Gone in 60 Seconds.
Trudy, who's basically the main character and only daughter in this family, is played by Zelda Harris. And I've seen her in He Got Game and The Piano Lesson. So this is going to be a short summary, because not a lot happens in this movie. So it's real short. The story mostly centers around Troy and her 4 brothers. They're raised by her mom, Carolyn, who is a school teacher, and their dad, Woody, who is a jazz musician. Just like we saw in the movie Bird, Woody also hates rock and roll. But unfortunately for him, this movie is happening in the 1970s, not the 1950s, so unlike the movie Bird, he's not making much money doing jazz. His lack of financial stability causes most of the fights in the family.
Well, most of the fights between the adults in the family.
Most of the fights between the adults in the family, right? The kids don't care about financial stability. They got too many other things to fight about. Because they're children. Like TV shows and who gets to control what.
Mm-hmm.
That is when they aren't fighting over how to raise the kids, and the kids themselves spend a good deal of fighting among themselves, as I just said.
Yeah.
Eventually, the mother gets cancer and dies, and the family has to move on in her absence. That's the movie. George, anything you want to add?
I mean, there's the thing that, like, she goes to live with her aunt for the summer. Saw that. There's a lot of little vignettes of...
It's a vignette movie, for sure.
Yeah,
what
Spike Lee's childhood seems to have been like. But it's not super complicated. There's these assholes that are huffing glue and being jerks. There's a white neighbor being all white and shit. The cops show up and don't shoot any black people, which is amazing.
This is true. There is a Hispanic neighbor who apparently just sits on the stoop with the kids and sings for some reason.
Badly.
There are, of course, the store that the kids sometimes shoplift at. And we see them. I think they're mostly Dominican, or they're. Oh, and also I guess one of the guys is from the Caribbean. But yeah, so it's basically
it's a diverse. It's diverse in ways that that are actually really well representative of Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, it's what New York actually is. You'll think of New York, and that's what it is. A mix of cultures.
One of the things, I mentioned my employer. One of the things that, like, one of our guiding principles for hiring these days is we want our company to look like the people we're serving.
Okay.
And when I heard that, I was like, I can get on board with that.
Okay. So, George, how much of what happens in this film can you relate to from your own childhood?
Me and my brother beating the shit out of each other on a regular basis. That was definitely a thing.
Your family never argued over money? Or that you knew of?
Not that I was aware of. Maybe we argued over watching, who controlled the TV or something, but I don't remember any of it.
Are you of the age where you lost the knob to the TV, so you had to use pliers to turn it? Are you too young for that?
No, my grandparents had a TV where you changed the channel that way, but it was high up where we couldn't reach it all the time, so we couldn't fuck with it enough to break it.
That was definitely a thing in my house, and we definitely did have fights. So I 100% related to this film's depiction of childhood, because boy, everything from the argument. I mean, but of course I didn't have a dad in the house. I had a mother and a grandmother. I didn't know my father. But basically everything else, though, having the kids all fighting each other. I wasn't a shoplifter, but my brothers and I guess one of my brothers, I don't know if my sister ever did. There was only one sister initially, and then sisters came along later as I got older. So a lot of that I can relate to. So it's a very, very familiar Brooklyn they're depicting to me. And of course, Spike Lee is only 10 years older than me, because he was born in 1957. I was born in 1967, so pretty close. How familiar are you with sniffing glue?
I'm aware of it as a thing that has happened, but like I said, I never did it, and I couldn't find anything from 1994 where people were doing it. I guess we had better ways to get high by then.
I looked this up, and apparently, according to what I found, people are still doing it, but it's, other stuff has really taken its place. I don't even know. I thought they took the inhalant stuff out of it to get you high, whatever it's called. So
yeah, they've done that so that people it's a lot harder to do it now, too.
Yeah, I think the inhalants people use now, so much they do them, is the whippets and
whipped cream.
How does that work exactly? They have
I honestly think that I think that it's actually just killing off some brain cells, or like interrupting oxygen to the brain and making you feel a little loopy, something like that. I don't know. I don't do it. The dangerous part of whipped cream cans for me is the whipped cream.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Me as well. So, as a father, how do you relate to the father in this movie?
Weirdly, slightly. The slightly is I, too, had a co-parent that told me I couldn't use my music to make money, so I had to keep doing the other things to make money. And that stuck with me until, I don't know, 3 years ago.
What about, did you guys never really have, you have fights over money, surely? Because you guys are pretty broke, right?
No, we just didn't have money, and we recognized that.
Okay. I don't understand. What's the difference between that and being broke?
We were broke, but it's not because we were
didn't fight over it.
Yeah, and it's not because one of us was. I didn't ask my ex to work. Sometimes she did, most of the time she didn't. I brought in enough for us to get by, and she stayed at home, took care of the kids.
Did you ever, because many times in this film, he kind of undermines her. She asks for the kids to do something, and he goes, let them do this, let them do that.
He absolutely does that. If anything, it was the other way around.
Oh, really?
I was the hard-ass disciplinarian, and in ways that weren't healthy either. And my kids know that, and we've had discussions about that now that they're older.
Okay. I, of course, have no children, and I can honestly say that I know of. I definitely have no kids. Unfortunately, didn't get laid enough. Alfred Woodward's character, Carolyn, shoulders enormous responsibility in the household. Does the film critique this imbalance, normalize it, or simply present it without judgment?
I think you can't portray that without inviting judgment. The film doesn't necessarily judge it. In fact, it kills off the character so that the character can't complain about it anymore. I mean, that's not why they killed the character off, but that's what happens. But when you think about it, that character's life was spent toiling and trying to make ends meet while other people benefited from it. And, they could have had a better life if everybody, pitched in more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the film definitely normalizes it, but then at the time it was normal.
Yeah.
The woman did shoulder most of the responsibilities. I saw this stat recently that by, I think, 2030, the majority of women, or women between 25 and 44, will be not married, will be unmarried and have no children, which is the first time in history that's going to happen. Because women finally figured out, why am I shouldering all this bullshit? Yep. Why do I have to take on all this? And I can get an education. I can go and have fun. Why should I have to? So, going to be an interesting time in our culture and the inevitable backlash of trying to get women back into the kitchen. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're already trying to do it now, and it's not going to happen. So I want to know, what was your position and what is your position now on corporal punishment, and how do you think it's treated in the film?
Well, my position used to be use corporal punishment. It's now don't do that, you fucking asshole. I think in the film it's treated the same way that the gender role imbalance was treated.
Yeah, just normal.
Yeah, because that's what it was. It's damaging, creates trauma, and only teaches your children to hide things from you so that you won't hit them again.
And when did you become this evolved person? When did you get that knowledge? Once the kids were grown up?
More or less when I lost my religion.
Ah. Yeah, blame religion.
It's a lot harder to justify being a brutanical asshole when you don't have a god having your back anymore.
So having a higher power made it possible for you to believe, I can hit my kids.
Well, the Bible says to do that.
That is true. That great book, the Bible, has never caused any problems in the history of the world.
None. Not a single one.
So is the neighborhood a character itself or just a setting in this movie, do you think?
I think that's a really good question, and it should change the way that I look at neighborhoods in the future. Because I think I think the neighborhood is a character. I think neighborhoods are characters. there are individual living organisms on Earth. There are also communities of organisms. There are also ecosystems of organisms. And all of those things are their own organism. Like Earth is an organism. We have tons of climates, millions of species. But like if you zoom out, the Earth breathes. Like you see it happening. Like you see the changes of the seasons, like there's life cycles, and all of these things mean everything is a fucking character if you focus in on it right.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think the neighborhood is a character, and the neighborhood I think most people would like to live in. It seems pretty nice overall. The streets are pretty clean, the kids out playing. I guess it's a summer day, so they're all having fun. I mean, the kids are not great, but, the kids, so they don't behave any worse or better than any other children.
Yeah.
In terms of movies we've seen, this is going a little off the topic, but in terms of movies we've seen with children in them, this is probably the closest next to Killer of Sheep in terms of very good depiction of how children actually behave.
Yeah.
The Killer of Sheep, the kids just throwing rocks at each other and running around like a bunch of maniacs. And these kids run around like a bunch of what you did. Mm-hmm. And I think children still do today, like maybe a little more supervised than we were back in my day, but still. The kids love to run around, like to play, obviously. So, and it's all in the picture. Yeah, and that's part of the neighborhood that gives the neighborhood its character. Neighborhood again, I think most people would like to live in, and it's Spike Lee's depiction of. I mean, yes, there's a touch of homophobia, and there's just maybe a little bit of sort of like questionable racial stuff, but overall, everyone seems to get along. They're different from different countries, different racial groups, yet they seem to work together very fine. Something that, our current administration doesn't think is possible, but actually works just fine in places like California and in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it looks like, wouldn't you would like to live there, wouldn't you? If you could afford Brooklyn, you'd live in there. But I mean, you would want the brownstone so you could do stuff in the basement.
Maybe. I'm leaning more nowadays towards wanting to just have my own place, because they didn't have they owned an apartment, and for some reason they owned the apartment building that they lived in.
That's a brownstone, yeah, they owned it,
but they were like renting out other floors to other people.
Right.
I just kind of want my own space, my own place.
I understand that. Yeah, the way it's sort of explained in the film, it's just a passing remark that if you remember, because he wasn't always broke. At one point, he did have money, and he would take the kids to Macy's and everything, buy something. He says that to her before he suddenly lost. Because apparently, as near as I can tell from the movie, he was a successful musician. He just hated doing studio work and whatever, and that's why he went on
doing the things that make money.
Money, yes.
Yeah.
So that's why. And also, she was a teacher, and back in the 70s, a lot of teachers bought a lot of brownstones because they were cheaper back then. That's how Park Slope, managed to stay alive today. But a lot of teachers bought the Park Slope property, not knowing, of course, eventually it would go on to be a lot of money.
Yeah, one of the problems with being a musician who doesn't want to sell out is that the way you make money as a musician is to sell out.
The way you make money as any sort of artist is to sell out. It's very hard to be your own person and not sell out. You just got to do something commercial. You're just not going to make any money.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of the time. That's just the reality of the situation. Do you think white people see this film differently than black people? As a white person yourself? You are the representative of all white people right now, George.
Yep. Boy, I really do wish I could be the representative of all white people and make them all act more like me.
Oh, you think you're that great?
I'm not perfect, but I'm a damn sight better than a lot of the fucking white people in this country. Yeah, I think it necessarily, right? Because it's a story of a black family. The more I think, yes, they're going to see it differently, but weird, the aunt they lived out in the burbs.
Yep.
This could have been a white family. I don't think there was anything, unless I'm almost certainly missing something. But I don't think there was anything necessarily black about it other than that they were black.
That's what I was going to say. It's definitely a black family, but there wasn't anything especially black about them in the sense that it's not overly ethnic. I mean, they're a family. They have fights. They get along. The mother tosses them out and has them come back. The father. I mean, just stuff that happens in families all the time. It's nothing unusual about it, but it's definitely a black family that's doing it. Yeah, it's a black movie about black people, but the issues are universal.
Yep.
At the end of the film, the daughter, Troy, takes over the mother's caretaker role. I know that happens in real life, but should it? And let me flesh that out a little bit, because basically the daughter becomes a substitute mom. She's like taking care of the other kids. She's helping clean up the apartment, blah, 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 all the things the mother was doing. And that's very typical in modern society, old society. Freud had his daughter as a substitute wife to him, other than, you know, obviously what you do with a wife. But beyond that, his daughter had to do the cleaning and up and all this sort of stuff. So it's a long history of that sort of thing. But is it right?
In an ideal world, number one, there's no such thing as an ideal world, right? People die. Mothers die of cancer. It happens. In an ideal world, the father would be able to pick up that half of the relationship. Or there would be some other adult that could step in and do that. Unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world, and that burden falls generally to the oldest children. And it's unfair. It, in a very real way, robs children of their childhood, but I don't know that we can do anything about it. It's kind of what's gonna happen in that scenario.
It's true. It's really hard to how do you stop it, you know?
Right.
People fall into these roles whether or not they plan it or not. But it's interesting. I remember seeing, I can't remember what TV show, it was just a clip I saw, where this, I guess the father either leaves the family or he's dead or something, and the child, a little boy, says to the mother, "I'm the father of the house now. I'm the man of the house." And she says to him, "You're a child. You are not the man of the house.
Yep.
I'm the man of the house and the mother of the house." I don't know where you're getting this misogyny stuff from, but I'm in charge here. Which more parents go like, no, you're still a child. Absolutely not. You're not taking over the role of an adult. But that's just not the world we live in. And it's very, we have this in Gloria, if you remember, where the kid, his parent, I guess, yeah, both his parents are dead, and Gloria has to take care of him, and he's just like, he thinks Gloria's going to be his wife. And he acts like a little man, and I'm like, oh my God. And she doesn't correct him nearly enough. I mean, it's just like, some of the stuff he's doing is really, it's like, too much.
And part of the reason it happens is because that child was sort of enjoying the spoils of having a mother. Now that person's not there to do those things for them, but they still want those things done. Who the fuck else is going to do it? They are.
Yeah. Crooklyn. Yeah, this one. Yeah, it's true. All right. I really have nothing else to add other than, does this film work? Does it still work?
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice, pleasant, sad, realistic portrait of a black family in Brooklyn in 1994. I think
1970
or in the 1970s, right? Yeah, but like, I think it's exactly what Spike Lee wanted it to be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it still works. And you could take, I mean, the issues of it, even though it's set in the 1970s, all the issues they still had in the 90s, they still have today. You know, like you said, mothers still die, people still get cancer, people still have financial issues they have to deal with. Everything that happens in this film, including kids being bad, even though they come from a two-parent family, the dad is in the house, the kids still misbehave because children misbehave. That's just the way it is. And they shoplift and they do things they aren't supposed to be doing, and they know they're not supposed to be doing. All that stuff. The only thing that probably is radically different today is that the kids won't fight over the TV as much because they now all have their devices of their own, so they don't fight over what TV show to watch. They can all watch their own programs individually on their phones.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, all that stuff is still true today, including the sad part with the dad. He puts on he thinks he's going to be really big and puts on this little concert, and the mother says to him, you know, the only people going to show up are our friends and family. He said, no, it's going to be huge. And of course, what happens? Only friends and family show up. The rest of the auditorium is empty, which, boy, can I relate to that. Mm-hmm. I guess we both can in many ways, right? So it's like, So yeah, very, very much a realistic portrait of a family in the 70s. Excuse me, I almost said what you said. Good film. I enjoyed it. Yeah, nothing more to add to that.
Nope.
So we both think it works, and if you haven't seen it, you should. It's a good film. So George, what's up next?
Next week is a Patron's Choice episode. The patrons were given a slate of 90s movies to pick from. A story about a decent and moral president, apparently, the American president from 1995. A love story in As Good as It Gets from 1997, which I think we should stick back on the list somewhere anyway, because it needs a good teardown.
Okay.
And a woodchuck comedy, Groundhog Day from 1993. And the winner is Groundhog Day from 1993. If you want to vote, but are not a patron, you can fix that by becoming one at patreon.com/DTSWpod, just like our newest patron, Fred R. Gruthius.
So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's nobody around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Ramaka.
This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.
The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
Okay. Good take. Dear Dr. Sylvia, my husband and I have been divorced for 4 years. Dear Dr. Sylvia, after I married my husband, I adopted his 2 children, ages 7 and 11. Dear Dr. Sylvia, my husband travels frequently, so the role of main caregiver and disciplinarian for our 13-year-old son falls to me.